Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat mga kaibigan. I hope that you can be able to hear me. Okay? At late po tayo ngayon. I'm sorry sapagkat talaga namang may diferensya itong ating tawag dito. Ating streaming up daw. Oo. Yeah, medyo inayos pa natin. Pero magiging maayos na po lahat yan. Okay? At ngayong gabi, kayo po nanonood muli sa Grace and Truth for You, from my house to yours, from my heart to yours, mga kaibigan, mga kapatid, mga anak sa pananampalataya, lahat po na ating mga kaibigan at mga bisita na ating kasama ngayon sa usapang ito. I hope that you'll be blessed and you are going to learn a lot sa ating mga pag-uusap po ngayon. I would be referring you tonight sa aklat ni Daniel. Tapos na po tayo roon sa The Four Horses of the Apocalypse. Ngayon naman po buksan natin sa Daniel sapagkat we are going to also dwell in terms of history, in relation to prophecy, mga kaibigan. Okay? Kaya sa Daniel chapter 2, basahin ko po beginning verse number 31. Ito po yung nakita ni Daniel sa panaginip po, panaginip po ni Nebuchadnezzar. Ito po, sahin natin. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold the great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all this shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of this king shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Itong gusto kong makita ninyo, nakalagay dito sa verse number 45. Ang sabi po dito, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Ano po yung shall come to pass hereafter? Ito po yung prophecy, mga kaibigan, mga kapatid, mga anak sa pananampalataya. At ang sabi dito, the dream is certain. The dream is certain. Oho. And the interpretation thereof sure. Oho, mga kaibigan. Anong ibig sabihin ng certain? Ibig sabihin po nito, reliable ito. Ito po panaginip nyo, King Nebuchadnezzar, reliable yan. At ang interpretation na binigay ko ay sigurado. Sigurado. Sigurado po mangyayari. Okay. So, tinan po natin mabuti ang nangyari po noong mga panahon yan. Ano po? So, we could be able to see what literally happened. Ano po ba ang talagang nangyari, mga kaibigan? Well, kahit po ang secular history ay nagsasabi that there were 4 great empires na magkakasunod. Ano po? Makikita po nyo ito sa Britannica Encyclopedia, inyo makikita sa Wikipedia, at makikita po ninyo sa world history. Ito po tinatawag natin the ancient world empires. Ang unang-una pong empire dito ay yung tinatawag nating Babylonian Empire, mga kaibigan. Babylonian Empire. Makikita po nyo rito, ang Babylonian po ay nanggaling sa Old Babylonian word na Bab-Elim, sa Hebrew na Babel or Babel. Oo. Ito po yung one of the most famous cities of antiquity. Babylon. Ito po ang sabi ni Henry W. F. Suggs, Emeritus Professor of Semitic Languages, University College, Cardiff, University of Wales. Babylon was the capital of southern Mesopotamia, o tinatawag natin Babylonia. From the early 2nd millennium to the early 1st millennium BCE, and capital of the Neo-Babylonian or Chaldean Empire in the 7th and 6th centuries BCE. When it was at the height of its splendor, its extensive ruins on the Euphrates River about 55 miles south of Baghdad lie near the modern town of Al-Hila, Iraq. Okay. Ngayon, inyo makikita po ito, na ito pong Babylon, na nakalagay po dito sa Book of Genesis, mga kaibigan. Yan po ay nasa Chaldean Peninsula. Kaya makikita dito, Chaldean, no? Capital of Neo-Babylonian or Chaldean Empire, mga kaibigan. Andyan yan. Inyo mapapansin din naman sa aklat ng Genesis kung paano, ang mga tao nung araw na pinapangunahan po ni Nimrod ay nagtayo ng isang city at sila ay nagtayo ng tower. Tinawag po ito ng history na Tower of Babel. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng Babel? Ibig sabihin po ng Babel is confusion. Sapagkat nangyari po dyan, mga kaibigan, nung sila po ay nagtatayo ng tower, nakalagay po sa Bible that try to reach heaven. Pero ang katulayan niyan, alam po naman ng mga nagtayo na hindi nila maaabot ang langit sa pamagitan po ng pagkatayo ng tower. Ito po yung tinasabi natin, mga kaibigan, that is the tower of the worship of heavenly bodies. Ibig sabihin, itong mga taon to na rebelyo sa Panginoon ay naghahanap po sila ng magiging Diyos nila at sila po ay nagsimula ng tower upang sila ay sumamba na tinatawag nating heavenly bodies, mga kaibigan. Ngayon, ano pong mga subject yan nung araw na hindi naman science to astrology. Alam mo yung kaibahan po ng astrology sa astronomy. The astronomy is the study of heavenly bodies. Astrology is the study of the interpretation of heavenly bodies. Ito po yung relihiyon. Ngayon po sa ating panahon, meron tayong horoscope. Yung pong horoscope na ito, it is determined by what? Determined po ito ng formation of the stars. Cancer, Aries, ano po? Formation po ng mga stars yan. Yan po ay satanic. Yan po ay devilish. Yan po ang naimbento nung panahon ni Nimrod, mga kaibigan. And that was biblical history. Ngayon po, nung araw talagang bago po itong mga empire na ito, meron na talaga natawag tayong naunang empire na dalawa. Panahon po yan ni Moses, for example. Panahon po ni Joseph. Ano po ang dalawang empire ito na tinatawag natin sa history of antiquity, mga kaibigan? Ito po yung Assyrian Empire na ang pinaka-capital po niyan ay yung Chaldean Peninsula. At yung Egyptian Empire. Dalawa lang po ito, no? I think it was only the other day na ang mga anthropologists po ay nakakuha ng 100 mga arthropods. Ito po yung libingan ng mga VIP sa Egypt, mula sa hari up to the noble, no? Down to the noble na mga siguro member din ng royal family. Intact pa ho yan. Yung mga tombs na yan, yung mga libingan na po yan, na tinatawag nating Areopagus, intact pa po. Hindi natin alam kung ang bangkay doon talagang kalansay na, mga kaibigan. Chinecheck pa kung sino yung mga taong yan. Okay. Ngayon, ituloy po natin. Ito ngayon yung tinatawag nating modern empires. At ang unang-una pong empire ay yung Babylonian Empire. Para po nagbalik yung tinatawag nating Assyrian Empire, mga kaibigan. Palagay ko, maaalala nyo yung tinatawag na yung hari na ang pangalan ay Hammurabi. 1792 to 50 BCE. Okay, Hammurabi. Ito po yung kauna-unahang nagbigay ng talagang tinatawag nating batas, the Hammurabi Code. Eka nga, nakalagay po dito, no? And this is even before the Babylonian Empire. Nakalagay po dyan, traces of prehistoric settlement exist. Babylonians' development as a major city was late by Mesopotamian standards. No mention of it existed before the 23rd century BCE, after the fall of the third dynasty of Ur, under which Babylon had been a provincial center. Ano po yung Ur? Nabanggit po yun sa Bible, yung Ur of the Chaldees, mga kaibigan. Lugar po ito, pero ito rin po ay tribo ng mga tao. Ano po? Dynasty of Ur. It became the nucleus of a small kingdom established in 1894 BCE by the Amorite king Sumuabum, whose successors consolidated its status. The sixth and best known of the Amorite dynasty is Hammurabi, who conquering the surrounding city-states and raised Babylon to the capital of the kingdom, comprising of all of southern Mesopotamia and part of Assyria, or modern northern Iraq. Its political importance, together with its favorable location, made it henceforth the main commercial and administrative center of Babylonia, while its wealth and prestige made it a target for foreign conquerors. Pagkat yung lugar na yan ay maraming ginto. Maraming ginto. Okay. Makikita po ninyo mga kaibigan, from the 9th to the late 7th century, Babylon was almost continuously under Assyrian sovereignty. Makikita po ninyo rito yung mga Assyrian kings na popular sa history. Tulad po ni Tiglath-Pileser, no? Yan. Popular po yan. Tulad po ng Assyrian monarch na Sennacherib. Esarhaddon, mga kaibigan. Yan po yung mga naging hari po na tinatawag nating Assyrian Empire na later on naging Babylonian Empire. Well, in 626 AD, Nabopolassar made Babylon the capital of a kingdom na pinangunahan po ng anak niya. Sino po anak niya? Nebuchadnezzar. Yan po. Yan ang unang empire, mga kaibigan. Itong Nebuchadnezzar na ito po yung taong nanaginip, hari na naginip, at ininterpret po ito ni Daniel. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yung panaginip niya. Okay. So makikita po nyo na according to history, according to tinatawag nating archaeology, merong ebidensya po ng topography of ancient Babylon. Bakit po? Because of excavations, cuneiform texts, descriptions by Herodotus and other classical authors. The extensive rebuilding by Nebuchadnezzar has left relatively little archaeological data in the central area earlier than his time, while elsewhere, the water table has limited excavation in early strata. The reports of Herodotus largely relate to the Babylonian built by Nebuchadnezzar. Now, during that time of Nebuchadnezzar, itong city of Babylon, ang pinakamayaman na city, mga kaibigan. Palagay ko, narinig niyo yung The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, di po ba? Oo. Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon was the largest city in the world, covering about 4 square miles or 10 square kilometers. Largest city na po ito, mga kaibigan. Nandito po yung Euphrates River. Hanggang ngayon po, andyan ang Euphrates River. That flowed through it. Okay. Kanina, binanggit ko sa inyo yung tinatawag nating popularly known as the Tower of Babel. Ang tawag po dito ng mga archaeologists at ng history, yung ziggurat. Ziggurat, a tower built in several stages. Ito po ay may base na 300 feet or 91 meters on a side. At meron po itong 7 stages. Binanggit ko na po sa inyo, mga kaibigan, kung ano po itong Tower of Babel na ito. The present site ay makikita nyo an extensive field of ruins. Siguro makakarating tayo ng Iraq. Makikita po nyo rito yung extensive field of ruins, no? Makikita nyo rito yung the remains of Nebuchadnezzar's palace. The Easter Gate, the Emak Temple, okay. Yan po mga bagay na yan na hindi natin alam ang ibig sabihin yan. Atin makikita sa archaeology yung British scholar Claudius James Rich. Siya po yung una nag-excavate niyan, 1811, 1817. Tapos si Austin Henry, 1850. Tapos yung French archaeologist Fulgence Fresnel. The German Assyriologist Jules Oppert in 1852. At marami pang iba, mga kaibigan. Now, beginning in 2003, panahon na po ito ni Saddam Hussein, warfare in Iraq, had a devastating effect on a number of antiquities and archaeological sites throughout the country, some of which were looted or damaged, mga kaibigan. Kaya makikita nyo, ito pong si Saddam Hussein, na naging Pangulo po ng Iraq, alam po niya ang history ng Iraq, which is at that time Mesopotamia. Alam po niya ang history ng Chaldean Peninsula. At gusto niyang ibalik yan. Ibalik niyan. Kaya naging siya, naging greedy, naging ambitious, mga kaibigan. So ano nangyari? Finlatin po ng US. Hindi ba? Okay. Ang pangalawa po na empire, pagkatapos po ng Babylonian, is the Medo-Persian Empire. The Medo-Persian Empire. Ito po yung nangyari on the 7th century, mga kaibigan. Alam niyo, sa totoo lang, sa Bible po ginamit itong mga empire na ito upang parusahan ng Panginoon ng mga Hudyo. Because of their backslidden state, because of their rebellion. Sila po ay naging under sa mga empires na ito, mga kaibigan. Naging slave po sila sa mga empire na ito. Ano po yung Medo-Persian Empire? Ito po naman yung dalawang tribo na pinangunahan po ni Cyrus the Great, mga kaibigan. Palagay ko yung Cyrus the Great, yung alam, no? Ayan, nakalagay din po yan sa Bible. Yan. Ito yung Medo-Persian Empire. Ang pinakakilala po ditong tinatawag nating mga hari ay si Artaxerxes. Artaxerxes 1, 2, and 3. Pagkatapos po niyan, mga kaibigan, ating makikita dito ang pangatlong empire, which is the Grecian Empire. Palagay ko, alam niyo na po kung sino ang pinaka-emperor diyan, no? Ito po si Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great. He defeated the Persian armies at Granicus 334 BC, followed by Issus 333 BC, and lastly at Gaugamela 331 BC. Mga kaibigan, bata pa ho ito. Sapagkat ito pong si Alexander the Great, nag-suicide po ito when he was only 32 years old. 32 years old, mga kaibigan. Yan po yung tinatawag nating the Greek Empire. At the height of the power of Alexander the Great, after the conquest of the entire Persian Empire, the empire encompassed millions of square miles spanning 3 continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe. At its greatest extent, the Greek Empire included the entire ruins of the Persian Empire, modern territories of Iran, Turkey, parts of Central Asia, Pakistan, Thrace, Macedonia, parts of the Black Sea, coastal regions, Afghanistan, Iraq, northern Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, and all significant population centers of ancient Egypt as far as west of Libya. The largest boundaries of the Empire of Greece, around 323 BC, were as follows. Meron pong northern boundary. Ito po ay from the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. The western boundary, Macedonia and Greece. The eastern boundary were the cities in and around India. The southern boundary went all the way to Libya and Egypt. Well, Mapapansin po natin dito mga kaibigan, 3 empire na pag-usapan natin. Tutuloy pa po natin pag-usapan to sa Friday, including yung 4th Empire. Pero gusto ko lang i-recall sa inyo yung ating binasa kanina, na panaginip po ito ni Nebuchadnezzar at binigyan po ng interpretasyon ni Daniel. Ano po yung panaginip na ito? Na tinawag po ito ni Clarence Clarkin na Colossus. Ang tawag po ito in verse 31, the great image. At makikita niyo yung head niya was made of fine gold. Yung breast niya, made of silver. Yung belly niya, thigh of brass. Yung legs niya, iron. And his feet, part of iron and part of clay. Ano maapasin niyo rito? Kaya makikita ninyo mula sa gold and naging clay, ibig sabihin, ito yung deterioration of the kingdoms. Deterioration of the empire, mga kaibigan. Kaya sabi ni Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar, you are the head of gold. Ang tawag po dito, absolute monarchy. Ibig sabihin po sa absolute monarchy, mga kaibigan, siya ang batas. Siya ang Diyos. Siya po ang dictator. Kinikilala po siyang Diyos ng empire na ito. Thou art this head of gold. Sabi po sa verse number 38. Pero pagkatapos niyan, verse 39, merong isang kingdom that will come inferior unto thee. Sino po yun? Yun ang Medo-Persian Empire. Inferior po ito. Ito pong Medo-Persian Empire na ito po yung ang kanyang breast is arms of silver. And then, his arms of silver, makita po ninyo, silver na, hindi na gold, mga kaibigan. Bakit po? Kasi ang Medo-Persian Empire, ito yan. Meron tinatawag nating the law of the Medes of the Persians. Makikita nyo sa book of Daniel. Panahon po ni Daniel ito. Panahon po ni Darius. Na ang sabi, oras na nagbigay ng batas ang hari, hindi na po ito maaaring mabali, mga kaibigan. Kaya meron tayong kasabihan, di ba? Ang utos ng hari, di mababali. Oras na yan po yung naging utos ng hari. Hindi na po pwede yung maripil. Yan po. Kaya hindi na po ito gold, hindi na po ito supreme power, hindi na po ito yung absolute power. Eka nga, inferior na po ito. Ngayon, may third kingdom. May third kingdom. Ano po yung third kingdom na yan? Yan po yung tinatawag nating the Grecian Empire. Yun po yung tinatawag natin na yung belly po niya, his belly and his thighs of brass. Brass na. Mula sa gold, Babylonian Empire, naging silver, Medo-Persian Empire, at naging brass na po. Ito na po yung Grecian Empire. Pababa ang kalidad ng metal. Ano po? Ang kalidad ng metal. Ngayon, ang sabi po dito, magkakaroon po ng fourth kingdom. Ito na po ngayon, ang Roman Empire. At ang fourth kingdom na ito, mga anak, mga kapatid, mga kaibigan, yung pong feet niya were made of iron and clay. Lalo na pong mahina. From the best metal of gold to the second-rate metal of silver to the third-rate metal of brass and to the ordinary metal of iron. Pero meron pang kahalong clay. Merong kahalong clay, mga kaibigan. O legs of iron at yung mga paa, part of iron, part of clay. Yan po yung Roman Empire. Tutuloy po natin ito sa Friday. Lalong magiging malinaw po sa inyo ang ibig sabihin po ng mga empires na ito. Ano pong relationship nito sa Israel? At ano pong relationship nito sa ating Panginoon? At ano po ang relationship nito sa tinatawag nating end time, mga kaibigan. So muli, ako'y nagpapasalamat po sa inyong pakikinig po sa amin, sa inyong pagkatyaga po. Ngayon, sa atin, no? It's almost 10:52 in the evening. Haya ako na kayo mapahinga, mga kaibigan. Ha? Kaya muli, salamat po sa pakikinig ninyo sa ating Grace and Truth for You. From my house to yours, from my heart to yours, mga kaibigan. Napakarami po tayong mga tagasunod dito sa iba't ibang lugar po sa mundo, mga kaibigan. Meron po tayo sa Greece, meron tayo sa Italy, yan. Kita nyo nababanggit po natin lahat yan. Meron tayo sa Saudi Arabia, meron po tayo sa Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Kuwait, Qatar, marami po tayo. Kaya muli, ako ay nagpapasalamat sa inyong pakikinig po at panonood sa amin. Pagpalain kayo ng ating Panginoon. Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Have a good night sleep. Good night.